we are talking a lot about how the companies can do a better job. If there is anything that there are a lot of people preparing and giving interviews right now, what would be your tips on making nailing those interviews or the job application process, if there were any from your side?
Sure. So interview preparation wise, for me, research, super important. Taking the time to really analyze the business that you're going to be speaking with, their pain points and the job description, really getting to know that as much as you can. So my recommendations are to search on Google the company that you might be interviewing at and hit the news tab and just see, have there been any recent announcements, any funding, anything at all that you see that might be quite interesting for you to use as an icebreaker when you go to the interview. Not only is it a good conversation starter, but it shows to the company that you've done your research, right? And you can ask some questions around this. So I always say to Google News search the company name and see what you can find. Also search on Glassdoor. There could be some really helpful information there for you in terms of preparation, how that looks. Can you also search the company name on GitHub or the person that you're going to be meeting on GitHub? And have they committed any code? Can you check out some of the repositories and actually maybe even make some comments before going into the interview on the code, and then bring that up in the interview and say, hey, I saw that you did this repository. I was really interested in it because of X, Y, Z, and these are my thoughts. How much do you value open source in the business? Again, a great icebreaker and showing that you've taken the time to get to know the company or the interviewer. And it makes you stand out that little bit more because not everybody is doing this. Also, just scanning all of the socials, really putting your detective hat on in any way that you can, blog posts, any social media pages, seeing if you can find, again, any content that's been published that might resonate with you, that you'd like to use as a conversation starter, that you'd like to actually base some questions around. For example, have they been doing quite a lot with the community for underrepresented individuals? Can you list some of those going into the interview and ask them about how they do that, or why they do it, why it's important to them? And another thing I really recommend is searching the company name or the person that you might be meeting on YouTube. Now, I say this because you might actually find some talks or some presentations that they may have done. And it's a really good way for you to get to know that individual in terms of how they might communicate, the knowledge that they have. You might learn something really cool from one of their talks. And again, amazing to bring up when you go into an interview, like, hey, I watched your talk on how to come out of your comfort zone, and the points you mentioned about XYZ, they really resonated with me. Thank you for that. You know, it makes them feel good as well as an interviewer, and they remember that. That goes a long way. Also, in terms of preparation, I would say having a look at the LinkedIn profiles of individuals who are already working in that company that might be doing a similar thing to you, or in the team that you might be interviewing at. And just see if you can find any common themes, common keywords that are coming up that you notice in maybe they're about them, their skill section, anything that you see that you feel aligns with you, that you can also then bring up in the interview. And be honest and open and say, you know, I did some research on people in the team, and I can really see that there's a consistent value around collaboration, inclusion, thinking outside the box. And this just really aligns with me because I'm so passionate about doing this. And this is an example of how I did it in my previous company. Again, it's great ways to start these conversations and ask questions. And finally, for interview preparation, I would say actually running the job description through a word cloud. So what that will do is it will highlight the keywords that are most frequently being mentioned. And with those words that are coming up, can you prepare 3 really tangible examples of how you have achieved those things? to go into the interview with. If you can go into that interview with 3 examples where you can explain the situation, the task, the action, and the results of the work that you did to showcase this type of keyword, amazing. I really recommend that you do that. And just lastly, I would say reframe what an interview is to you. And this is easier said than done. I really understand this, especially with everything going on in the world. If we've been laid off, it's a need for this to go right sometimes, but that can cause a lot of anxiety and maybe a lot of unnecessary stress that might then impact the way we perform. So if we can reframe when we go into an interview that this is going to be a conversation with somebody who's quite like-minded to me, into the same technologies, passionate about similar things. And I'm going to share with them the experiences that I have, the things that I enjoy the most, my personal mission statement. And I'm going to learn about them and their journey and see if this is a company that I want to work for. If you can reframe it to just being an open conversation and chat, hopefully that can also help to overcome those nerves that might come in, which just want to say are very natural and very normal.
Absolutely. Wow. Like, these are gems in this conversation, in this entire episode.